Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of All Angles. I'm Dion Jackson Miller, and in this program we are talking beach access. Joining me in studio is Executive Director of the Jamaica Environment Trust, Dr. Teresa Rodriguez Moody. Also joining us by Zoom, President of the Jamaica Beach Birthright Environmental Movement, Dr. Devon Taylor. We did have the President of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association confirmed to join us. Unfortunately, we've been having some connectivity issues, so he's been unable to do so. And the Environment Minister, Matthew Samuda, was having some scheduling conflicts, so we will talk to him as well another time. Before we start with our guests, though, Kemon White has this overview of the beach access policy, I should say, recently tabled in Parliament and some of the issues that have been arising.
I do feel that persons have a right to feel that they're shut out based on what they're seeing, especially along the North Coast. But there has to be some type of give and take.
I met Crystal Gale at Bob Marley Beach on Tuesday. She was soaking up the sun and enjoying the therapeutic view as she celebrated her birthday.
I'm here at the Bob Marley Beach in Bull Bay, St. Andrew. I'm surrounded by bright blue skies, clear waters and sandy shores. It's the perfect place to relax or unwind, especially after a stressful day. But amidst this beauty, there is a concern that more and more beaches across Jamaica are becoming increasingly inaccessible to the public.
Jamaica has approximately 86 officially designated public beaches, with around 130 beaches accessible to the general public in practice. Meanwhile, an estimated 330 beaches are privately owned or otherwise restricted, highlighting that beaches with limited access significantly outnumber those open to the public. The 1956 Beach Control Act establishes the legal framework governing the management, use, and access to beaches in Jamaica. Under Section 3, the government controls the foreshore and the seabed. A foreshore is the part of the land next to the sea that is between the limits reached by high and low tide, or any part of this land that does not have grass or buildings on it. However, while the Act allows for the designation of public bathing beaches, it does not provide a general legal right of public access to the coastline. Peter Drummonds, who operates a restaurant at Bob Marley Beach, believes the public is losing access due to large-scale developments along the coastline.
Yeah, man, the hotel control most of the beach, them. For no most of them are all of them. Because them said a tourist run Jamaica. So them are going to put tourism first. And putting tourism first, you exploit the citizens them.
However, Crystal Gale says there must be a balance between tourism development and public access.
If it is that some areas are reserved for tourists, hoteliers and so on to develop, and of course you have the designated areas for the residents, then I think that would be a more fair solution. And I think that's how the government can get involved, because you can't have a free-for-all of persons buying up a lot of these properties, and shut out the local access. So if there is some consideration as to, yes, we have to prioritize the local citizen, then certainly if there is that camaraderie, then I think we could see better days.
Another major concern is the high cost of entry at some beaches across Jamaica. While Ms. Gale believes a small fee may be acceptable for upkeep, Hector Samuda strongly disagrees.
No, that can't be fair. No. Should be paid no time at all to use beach at Jamaica. This is our country, Mother Nature, so we should have full access so we can live a life we want to live instead of trying to make other people enjoy their life and try to shut out we Jamaicans,
Last Thursday, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness tabled a new beach access and management policy. The policy proposes increasing the number of public beaches of good quality that are properly maintained and accessible while ensuring that any fees charged are reasonable. It also calls for amendments to legislation to guarantee public access, both physical and visual, to the foreshore and the floors of the sea, along with provisions to maintain and develop access points. Among the key measures, the government will prohibit the sale of public beaches without cabinet approval and require parish-level consultations to determine the adequacy and type of beaches available for recreational use. The policy also includes plans to streamline beach categories and fees, promoting reasonable beach use, and improve the management of fishing beaches. It further highlights the need to address coastal erosion, pollution, and other environmental threats, while protecting the traditional access rights of fishermen and strengthening the overall sustainability of Jamaica's coastal resources.
Reporting from the Bob Marley Beach in Bull Bay, St. Andrew, I'm Kemon White for All Angles.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Kemon. And let me start with Dr. Taylor, because JABEM, the Jamaica Beach Birthright Movement, has been unequivocal in calling for more access for Jamaicans and for a right of access to be recognized. But that issue mentioned by one of the interviewees there, Dr. Taylor, she said there needs to be give and take, spoke about some beaches being reserved for tourists. How do you balance in your proposal or your cause, how do you balance this demand for public access with the rights of private landowners?
Well, the private landowner does not have an inherent right to the foreshore. So, I mean, the balance there is some things that is being fabricated as to say that once you own property at the foreshore, then you have a right there, right? What is the right? The right is that any democratic society that is built upon, a liberated people with their freedom of movement and the rights to the treasures and the resources of the country. So how this thing all began, it began wrong, right? Where everything is vested in the crown, everything is structured around colonial architecture. And since such time, they've been blocking out the people, and not only through land titles, but switching to a licensing system that excluded Jamaican people from the ecological heritage of the country. So what we are saying is that it's not that you can't have hotel operating in the space and Jamaican enjoying the heritage in the space, right? That can coexist because it does so, and the policies presented show 5 different Caribbean islands that have that kind of a model. Why does Jamaica need a model that excludes its people and prioritize hotel industry? That model does not work for the Jamaican people.
You have answered me though. What of the people who have bought their property already, knowing what the existing situation is in Jamaica, on the assumption that they're going to be able to, lock people out of their beaches if they want to do so?
But the law does not transfer the foreshore to these people.
No, but remember, sorry, let me just jump in here. Remember, agreed, and we'll bring up a photograph of the foreshore in a little while so our viewers can see exactly what we're talking about. But the issue is always about access. So sure, the government controls the foreshore, which is that tiny little strip alongside the water, right? But if you can't get to it, that is just theoretical. Theoretical meaning people not going to be able to get there. So sure, once I get there, nobody can run me out. But how do I get there if you have buildings and gates and all kinds of things blocking me off? So that's why I'm saying, how do you balance this? And I'll come to Dr. Rodriguez Moody in just a little bit. But that's what I'm asking you. How do you balance that, if at all?
Well, you see, that's the problem where how do you balance it? You have to enact laws. Now, we have laws on the book, right? The Property Vested Act, right? We have the Land Acquisition Act of 1947. The Jamaican government is going to use it now to secure coastal land. And they have used it all the while to create new roadways, and they have used it to displace people, and they use it to create property so hotel industry can build. We need to use these laws to really open up the easements so Jamaican can get to these spaces. Because in the first place, they should not have allowed, right, this to happen. So it happened. We need to reclaim these back. Plus, almost all of these property had easement over which Jamaicans used to cross over. Those easements were just taken away from the Jamaican people. So we need to reclaim them back. So that would be the balance, is for us to reclaim what was lost from the Jamaican people. So we now enter into an equitable framework that we can now get back to the foreshore in spaces that we have lost it.
So you're saying the private landowners need to understand then that the public should have access, that access should be provided, and they just need to make their peace with that.
They need to make their peace with that. They absolutely do, because they are Jamaica is like the only country that you don't own something but you're allowed to fence it in. They don't own the foreshore on the floor of the sea, but they're allowed to fence it in. That is just wrong from jump. So we can fix it because there are laws on the books that allow how to fix it.
Okay, let me bring in Dr. Rodriguez Moody at this point. And we have up back the photograph. Doctor, walk us through this for me now, because we use terms and sometimes we talk about beach and people don't really understand what that means and what the foreshore means. So looking at that photo, can you tell my viewers what we're looking at?
If I had my glasses. But where the red area, that's the foreshore. That's the area that is the part that is under contention, discussion in this policy. The backshore is in blue. Now, the backshore, I want to just say something here that a lot of people don't realize, that a beach is a dynamic. Thank you. Beaches are dynamic, right? And what does that mean? They don't stay the same from winter to summer months. And so this is one of the reasons why normally you don't want anybody building in the backshore, because the backshore is where you have the reserve sand from that when you have, it pushes up into that area and then it can come back from that area and go out to sea, and it just moves, it's dynamic. And so it's important. The backshore is important for no building, and this is typically observed in many different countries.
Not in Jamaica, though.
But not in Jamaica. And then you have, so how they've defined the foreshore is the difference between the high water mark and the low water mark. So the high water mark is typically the highest point at which the water gets on a beach, and the low water mark is usually the lowest part, like for example, when you have the swash zone and it pulls back. So in a nutshell, this is what this diagram is saying. And so the foreshore is the area that belongs to the crown, as well as the water column itself and the seabed belongs to the crown.
So looking at the picture, it would be approximately that little strip we're seeing between the water and the seaweed.
Correct.
Okay. And just to set our viewers that one of the things is that, our legislation, is the same kind of legislation you see in England. But in England, they have a huge difference between their high water mark and their low water mark. So what they would call the beach would actually there be a huge stretch of land, unlike what we have here. So what's the implication of this? I tell you what, let's take the break, we'll come back and then we'll pick up on that point. We'll soon come.